What's up guys, it's Mangatime once again here to bring you my review of Bleach 610 Mausoleum of Skulls. And holy crap, I think the fight might be over. Mausoleum of Skulls, that's an awesome chapter title. Even though the actual Mausoleum has a very small but epic part to play in the chapter, this chapter is just like crazy. Some people might hate it, so I didn't hate it. Let's get into it. So the chapter starts with Yhwach continuing to explain the Almighty, which is Yhwach's Shrift, and he says that up until now His Majesty's been fighting with his eyes closed. It's not literal, of course, it's figurative. Essentially meaning Yhwach hasn't unlocked his full power, the Almighty, until now. And basically, Yhwach takes us through the Kaiser sang again about how Yhwach was waiting 900 years, 90 years, and now apparently we were still in the 9 years. Wait, well, I don't know actually, but I mean he states that the 9 years is basically only just finished essentially, and that because of that Yhwach can use the Almighty. If Yhwach had tried to use the Almighty during the 9 years when he was trying to get his power back, it's a bit unclear this, but Yhwach says that he says Yhwach would have lost the power of the Almighty, and that we Sturmiter may as well have just lost our powers. I don't really understand that. I kind of think that what he means by that is that if Yhwach didn't have access to the power of the Almighty, he would just steal their powers instead to use as his own. That's kind of what I think is going on here. And basically Yhwach's like, but that didn't happen. His Majesty is now at his true power. And then we see Uryu here as well, which is kind of cool, even though he doesn't say anything. But Yhwach's like, our prayers that have been answered after 1,000 years, they've finally been answered. And Yhwach reveals that His Majesty didn't use the Almighty up until now for the sake of the Sturmiters, which is kind of nice. Even though I kind of do feel Yhwach his respect for Yhwach is a little misplaced. Then we see this awesome panel of Yhwach just standing there with what I think is his sword, and the ink appears to be leaving his body. And Ichibei is looking pretty nasty. He's like been stabbed and he's got blood everywhere. And there's a seal behind him. I'm not sure why that's there. But it's interesting to note that he's still in the space that he said he'd defeat Yhwach in. And I think it's quite like a kind of gruesome irony that he gets killed in that space instead. Well, I say he gets killed, I don't actually know. But Yhwach starts getting a bit cocky and he's like, he's saying to Ichibei, like, how did my attack fail? Why am I about to be destroyed? You must be asking yourself these questions. And he does indeed have two irises in each eye, which looks kind of funky. I'm not gonna lie, it looks kind of weird. It's kind of neat though. But basically, Yhwach now explains his ability, the Almighty. It essentially, at its core, gives Yhwach the power to see into the future, literally as far as he wants. And he says that if he sees an ability, he's able to understand it and learn how to counter it. So essentially, when he's using the Almighty, he's completely unstoppable. And he says that he basically says, "I am completely unstoppable." But Ichibei, being the badass he is, doesn't just give up. He a bit like Yamamoto did. He basically instead, he gives us one of his crazy rape faces again. He's just kind of like, you defeat me?" And he's just kind of like, you're getting a little bit ahead of yourself. Just because you can see everything in the future doesn't mean you can stop the inevitable. Essentially, basically, he's still saying that he's stronger. And he then takes all the ink, all the darkness, all the black, and just summons it all in front of him. Like he takes loads of it from Yhwach and from like the sky, and it all comes crashing down in front of him like a sea of ink. The artwork is absolutely phenomenal, but it gets even better. Ichibei's just kind of like, all the darkness is mine, and he pulls it towards him, and he starts doing this crazy chant. And I'm not going to read it all out. It's a pretty cool chant, but it's literally lasts like 2 pages. Which is a bit annoying, but the artwork again is cool. It's really sinister. Like there's just ink raining down. Ichibei's like standing in it, and I think he forms some ink. He forms a bowl from the ink, and he's like drinking this ink. I don't really know why, but he's like doing this chant, and it's really epic because you kind of know something crazy is going to happen. I was like, is he going to use Kido? But no, since it's Zanpakuto, it's not Kido, it's one of his abilities. And then he reveals it, the Mausoleum of Skulls, which is called Futen Daisatsu Ryo. I think I pronounced that right. Futen Daisatsuryo, I think it is. And it's just this absolutely amazing looking page where Ichibei has stabbed Ichimonji into the ground, and I think he's kind of like that, and his beads are now floating up behind him, and there's this huge, like, Buddhist kind of looking temple that rises up behind him, and like a roped pathway goes out in front of him, and it just looks incredible. It looks absolutely incredible, and like there's lights coming out of the windows. Absolutely amazing. Do we ever really know what it does? No, not really. I think it's a seal, because Ichibei says that in order to use this ability, he had to steal the darkness 100 years into the future from 100 Knights of the Soul Society. So presumably that means that sometime down the line, the Soul Society is not going to have... It's either going to end now 100 years prior to when it would have done wherever fate had decided the Soul Society would end, or it's just going to have 100 days without any night. Either way, you know, Yhwach's like, you will be taken into the mausoleum and literally you will lose everything. You'll lose the darkness on your clothes, in your blood, in just everything. There will be no chance for rebirth. But as Ichibei says that, he then says, enjoy your never-ending descent into hell. As he says this, Yhwach says the exact same thing, causing Ichibei to be like, whoa, what the hell? And Yhwach, there's this creepy-looking panel, which is totally awesome, and he's just kind of like, didn't I already say that I was all-seeing? And he's just kind of like, you know, I know what you're going to say. And he's like, and he's basically like, I can see everything, you know, your ability is not going to work on me. And he says... You know, he's like, you know, you say that Yhwach means nothing, and then he like rises up and looks uber creepy, and he's like, my name is Yhwach, and I am the one who will take everything from you. Before we move on, Yhwach now has 3 irises in each eye, which makes him look even creepier, but at the same time, guess who he's starting to look like? That's right, the Soul King. Because the Soul King has 4 irises per eye, and they're all black. Yhwach's got regular-looking irises, and he's got 3, but he's getting there. And I do think that's what Kubo's going for. I think that's what he's eventually going to go for. But yeah, Yhwach like looks uber creepy, and he lifts his hand, and he just blows Ichibei up. He blows him up, and it's like a super gruesome page. Ichibei's like this. His bottom half appears to be intact, but his top half has just been exploded. His head flies off. It's like you can see the spine attached. He's dead, man. Unless it's like an ink clone or some rubbish. Ichibei is dead, which is crazy. Not as crazy as Yamamoto, but it's still crazy. But yeah, man, that appears to be the end of the fight, and Yhwach has like risen up. His power, the Almighty, literally makes him unbeatable. His eyes are starting to look like the Soul King's, and I think we're just starting to get somewhere. Like, hopefully we'll get maybe some kind of a flashback soon, but it's pretty much soon time for Yhwach to take his first step into the actual palace. So that's basically it for the chapter, guys. Just a couple of things. I think the Elite Exterminator are going to finish off the Royal Guard. Whether they'll kill them or not, I don't know. That seems a bit overkill for every member of the Royal Guard to die. Might happen, but I certainly think they're going to lose, and I think the Elite Exterminator, Hashoff, Uryu are all going to join Yhwach and going to the palace. What's going to happen when they get there, I honestly have no idea, just because I don't know anything about the king. I don't know if he's going to be able to put up a fight, or if he's just going to get killed, or if he's just going to be way, way, way OP and absolutely annihilates Yhwach. It's going to be interesting. As for Yhwach's power, the Almighty, possibly one of the most hacks abilities we've ever seen in the series. Literally just, I can see into the future, and when I see an ability, I can understand it, and it can't be used against me anymore, essentially. However, this might give us insight into what the special war potentials were all about. Kenpachi doesn't fight with a particular ability and uses complete brute force, which implies that his abilities are incomprehensible, because he doesn't technically have any, he's just a force of nature, almost. That would imply that there's nothing for Yhwach to learn and counter. The same kind of goes for Aizen. Kyokusui Getsu. Yhwach's ability relies on him being able to see things. Aizen's ability relies on you not understanding what you're truly seeing. So I think that would be an interesting impasse. I think the same kind of goes for Ichigo, but he's a bit of a different story. It could be that Yhwach would be able to understand whatever power Ichigo is using at the time, but we know that Ichigo is a complete clusterfuck of all different kind of powers. So yeah, that's kind of my take on that. This week's chapter was really short, and I'm out of things to talk about as far as the chapter goes, really. The artwork was absolutely top notch. The mausoleum of skulls looked phenomenally good. Just this whole fight has been really good in my opinion, really good. And I think this is probably the last chapter of the year. I think we're expecting a break next week. A chapter, I believe a chapter might be coming on the 1st, and then a break the week after that, and then back to normal scheduling after that. But don't quote me on any of that, guys. I could be back here next week. There was a chapter on Christmas Day last year, which was the chapter Renji revealed his new Bankai. No, it wasn't. It was the chapter when Renji summoned his new Bankai but didn't reveal it against Master Masculine. Anyway, guys, it's been a pretty crazy year for Bleach. I think a lot of people might agree this hasn't been the best year. There's been some good stuff, but like a lot of stuff's been a bit crazy and a bit all over the place as the fight's really been kind of taking off. So, but you know, I've enjoyed it as always, and Yhwach versus Ichibei has been a pretty stellar way to end it off. So yeah, this year appears to be ending with the death of the head of the Royal Guards, which is mental. Yhwach's tally for killing bald, bearded men has just gone up again. How is he going to be stopped? Absolutely no idea. Where's 2015 going to take us? Absolutely no idea. Is Bleach going to end in 2015? I don't actually think so, but we'll see. Until then, guys, I'm gonna drop an 8 on this chapter. Literally, there just wasn't enough going on for me to push up to a 9. The art was top notch. It was a nice end to the fight, and it was really intriguing to see Yhwach's eyes evolve. But absolutely nothing happened. It was literally just Yhwach explains his ability, Ichibei summons a new ability, Yhwach kills him. Literally nothing else. So I can't really do it over an 8. But it was a really good chapter. And let me know in the comments below what you thought of this week's chapter. Do you think Ichibei went out well, or do you think he got completely... Well, he did get completely wrecked, but I think he put up a pretty good fight. So let me know in the comments below what you thought this week's chapter. Up here, please subscribe. That'd be really great. And have a Merry Christmas, everyone. But until next time, or, you know, whatever holiday it is you celebrate at this time, if you don't celebrate any holidays at this time, just have a nice couple of weeks. But until probably the new year, unless a chapter does come out, I will catch you guys later. See ya.